Hello and welcome to the Gambling Files podcast, the podcast that is delighted to be here and recently had the interesting experience of having an infected cyst lanced. I'm one of your hosts, John Bruford, joined by your other host, Fintan Costello. Fintan, hello.
I've had nothing lanced in the recent past. Jesus Christ.
It wasn't good.
And what's even funnier is just before we started recording, John just drops a mashed potato fact on me.
I did drop a mashed potato fact on you, but it's true. And now that you know it, you'll never look at that the same way again. Trust me on this.
Yeah,
What I was telling Fintan was... Oh, let me just mute that. Sorry, I didn't mean to deafen you. What I was telling Fintan was that in food photography, one of the most difficult things to photograph is ice cream because you've got lights and ice cream melts, and so it doesn't ever look the same way as it does when you actually serve it. And in food photography, instead of ice cream, they use mashed potato because it will hold its shape and always look the same. Now that you know that, every time you see an advert for ice cream, you'll look at it and go, fucking hell, it is. Because it is. And the other thing is, whenever you see a movie with submarines in, they don't film the model work in water. They film it in low light and smoke. Because the way that smoke moves is very similar to the way that water moves. It's a true story. Anyway. Yeah, I got it lanced, Fintan.
It was revving up the chainsaw.
I've been on antibiotics for a week, and I went into the doctors, and they were like,
"It's doing nothing."
The doctor was like, the nurse actually, she was going to change the dressing. She looked at it, she said, we could lance that. I'm like, really? She went, yeah. Do you mind? I'm like, no.
Oh, she's a squeezer. She's a squeezer.
Later, I did mind. But it was quite funny because there was a point at which it
Doubt. Somebody could be eating their breakfast right now. Doubt.
That's a good point. Yeah. But I was lying there having this done, and I just thought to myself, I wonder where this ranks on the list of most painful experiences of my life.
Oh yeah.
And it's I think it's number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, and a very safe, solid 5. And not 5 out of 10, just number 5 on that awful list.
Wow. Very precise.
Well, I had a bit of time to think about it. And it wasn't great. Yeah, well, it wasn't my favourite thing ever. But there are 4 things that I enjoyed less, so I need to look at it that way. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
I'm afraid to ask about number 1, but I am curious.
Number 1 was I had an injection between my toes.
Okay.
And that was.
This your heroin phase, was it?
Like,
running out of veins.
You mock.
You're in the army. You got to hide it from the sergeant, kind of shit. I've seen this movie.
When I was only about 16, and I had an ingrown toenail, and the first injection to painkiller to cut it out was between the toes, and it is absolutely excruciating. Wow. But it was worse because I had to have the same thing done twice more on the same foot, and I knew what was coming the next 2 times, and that was actually way worse.
It wasn't numbed after the first one?
No, the injection was to numb it.
Yeah, but the second injection, you should have been going into a numbed bit, right?
No, because you can numb the skin, but you can't numb the injection site because that's what the injection's for.
Got it. Okay.
So I had 2 further similar operations. That was really grim. But actually, the time that I had my shoulder shut in a car boot, I would say was more painful than the lancing. Yeah. And that surprised me while I was lying there thinking, did that hurt more? Yes, I think it did. It's funny where your brain goes when you're creating this dissociation.
John going to his happy place or something. I think it's weird. Just reading off movie trivia.
Going to a place that was
worse.
I don't know. So you're right, are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, but a lot of successful business stuff going on.
I'm incredibly busy. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, it does sound good. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't. It's difficult.
You can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it. But
No, you can't. That's a sign of how successful you are that you can't discuss it.
that's it. Well, I like to talk about things when they're done, not like,
Yeah.
because I got a picture in my head, which is fine. But like, if it's not done, it doesn't count. So we'll wait till it's done, then I can talk about it.
Do you know, I watched a fantastic TV series.
Which one?
So I watched an entire TV series in like a 12-hour period or something.
Okay.
And I haven't done that since Twin Peaks went on DVD in 2002. And Twin Peaks was only 6 episodes because the second series wasn't on DVD. But this is going to sound not as good as it was, okay?
All right.
There's a BBC series called Riot Women. And it's a bunch of menopausal women who decide to form a punk band.
Okay.
It's absolutely phenomenal.
Sounds great.
It's wonderful. Like it's one of the. It's not perfect, but it is one of the best written things I've seen in a long, long time. And I'd say that as like so many of my close friends are going through menopause, and like it nails so many things. Plus, the music's fantastic. Yeah, it's a good show. You should catch up with it.
Is it new or been around for a while? I've never heard.
I think it was televised a few months ago.
Okay.
So hey, if you have access to iPlayer or anything like that, it will be on there, or BBC Americas or whatever.
I've got other ways to do it.
Yes, you have. But one that your significant other might enjoy.
Or hate. It's really hard to tell. I'll have to check.
Yeah, but it's one of those shows that it was marketed as a comedy, and it's not a comedy, but it is very funny.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But when it's wrong, it's the nasty things happen in it. But it's just beautifully done. It was a real treat. And like I say, it's the first time I've watched the series in a day. I watched 4 episodes, went to bed. I was really tired. Woke up at 3:30 in the morning, wide awake.
Supposed to get your punk on.
So I'm like, well, there's only 2 episodes to go. It's only 2 hours. so 5:30 this morning, I was like, I'm glad I did that. It's good.
It's not good, John. It's not healthy. Not healthy.
Well, you say that, right? But, and I know I've mentioned this before on the podcast, I'm sure I have, that theory of second sleep is the thing that's gone by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
We now assume that unbroken sleep is the healthy, good thing. But they used to just accept that you're going to wake up in the night. And they'd wake up in the night, light a candle, have a little read, frolic with their bed partner, do whatever. And then get tired again and they go back to sleep. This was pre-electric light. So the circadian rhythm was more intact, and they were more like, yeah, well, I'll get up when it's light.
It's because they went to bed at like 7 p.m. then. It was pre-electrification. So.
Well, maybe not 7, but, earlier. But the point is, they had second sleep. And it's actually, I think the earliest mention of it is in Samuel Pepys' diaries, which obviously that's like 16th century or whatever. And it's mentioned in various things after that, but that's the earliest known mention of it in literature. And it makes perfect sense. So now when I wake up in the night, I don't stress about it. I pick up a book, or I lie there and I ruminate on the vagaries of life, grinding my teeth, angry. Just kidding.
There was a talking about sleep. There was Graham O'Brien, the Scottish cyclist. You know the guy who it was him versus who did the hour record.
Oh yeah.
And he was famous for like using parts of washing machines and stuff to like ball bearings from washing machines and stuff for his bike. And he tried the cycling union tried to ban him stuff. He's an amazing biography. And he talked about not sleeping properly the night before a big event. So he did a lot of things with he measured everything with a heart rate monitor. Like what's the impact of, having sex the night before? There's no impact. Or what's the impact of like not sleeping the night before a big event? And so based on his data, he's like, well, actually, it had no impact on me. It just had, like, I was very confident that if I was awake all night, I was going to be completely fine the next day. And he goes, and when you think, and then he made a really interesting comment. He said, if you think about it, think of the Olympics. Think how many world records get broken by people who didn't sleep properly the night before. Everybody can manage fine with a bad night's sleep. 2 bad nights sleep in a row, you're going to suffer. But 1, you're fine.
It's true.
And I just thought it's any time like I'm lying, they go like, I'm fucking wide awake. It's fine. There's people breaking world records on fucking less sleep. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'd probably be even more successful tomorrow.
Try.
That's what you'll be thinking. Whereas I'll be thinking, I wonder if I'll just have another pedestrian day being me. I'm not bitter.
Look, you can wake up and choose whatever day you want, mate.
Well, and I guess the metrics of success are what you choose them to be. If I choose them to be not having hair, then I'm winning today.
You choose to be a great dad, and you're a great dad. So you're winning the day.
Some people might dispute that.
For sure. But I'm going to try that.
But I appreciate your weak attempt at support there. So who's on the podcast, Fintan?
We have, and I'm really excited about this, we have a lovely gentleman who's written a book.
Oh, yeah. An author, you say?
An author. Mr. Alex Duff.
Alex Duff.
Yeah, he's written a book. And I'd read this book prior to the Gambling Book Awards, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So the book is called Smart Money, The Fall and Rise of Brentford FC. And what Alex has done is he's written a biography of a football club, Brentford FC in London, but intertwined. And obviously, anybody following Premier League football, Brentford's in the Premier League, against all odds, etc. But what it also is, it's a biography of football in the UK. It's a biography of Brentford. It's a biography of the current owner of Brentford. I want to say, what's his name?
Oh, crap, I can't remember his name either. I almost said Tony Bloom, and that would have gotten us blacklisted.
No, it's not Tony. So Tony Bloom is obviously... what's his name?
He was, though, wasn't he?
So, Tony Bloom is Brighton. And
he is Brighton, but he was one of the co-owners of Brentford, if I remember right.
No.
Oh, I thought they did the model together.
No, the Brentford owner, Matthew Benham. That's it. So So to Tony Bloom is, for anybody in the industry, is Star Lizard, which is the highly successful football trading gambling business. What did I just say? Matthew used to work for Tony. Bit of a falling out. It's all covered in the book. Matthew went off on his own, set up his own trading business, sports trading business, and then, grown up in Brentford supporter, eventually took over the club, and then applying, it's classic. Then it turns into like a Moneyball story. So applying kind of, Moneyball kind of techniques and scouting and using the gambling data and, what actually matters and what actually wins a game in terms of talent spotting and things like this. Moved Brentford up the league, and then there's still the rivalry between Matthew and Tony, and there's a whole kind of thing going on there, and it's just a fabulous book. I love it.
And Alex is a lifelong Brentford fan as well. I mean, he's from the area.
He is. He's a journalist, and he's also got there's another. I didn't realize he had it, but he's also done a book called The Frick, which is the story of the Tour de France. Which is also excellent. I've read that as well now. And since he's been on.
I'm just holding up for listeners who are viewing in black and white the cover of the book, and it is a lovely cover. It's printed by Little Brown in the UK. It's what can I say? It's a great book, and it's got photos in, which I think that you can never commend a book with photos in enough. frankly.
because it's it's the history of the club. It's the the famous player. Like Brentford used to be a good club back in the day. The famous players, the previous owners, previous man. Like it's a really like. But if you're not really into football, it actually doesn't matter because there's so much else going on with the storytelling.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand baseball necessarily, but I loved Moneyball. What a book!
So it's kind of the central thread that joins all these other stories together, which is really nice. So yeah, it was a really really thoughtful book, really well researched, and yeah, great writing. It was really cool.
He's a nice chap too.
He was lovely. He was lovely, and his other book on the Tour de France was just as good. So
but isn't eligible for the Gambling Book Awards.
It's not.
And that is, of course, why Alex is on this podcast. So really, really pleased to be furthering that still. And it's just great to have experts in things on talking about their expertise.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about.
Now, speaking of expertise.
I know what you're going to say.
What am I going to say, Fintan?
You're going to say, tell me all about Optimove, Fintan. And what I'm going to say is Optimove is the gambling industry's #1 CRM platform.
But what did they invent, Fintan?
They invent positionless marketing.
Yes, they did.
So for marketers these days, you've got to be... There's no such thing as specialization anymore.
There's no such thing as a marketing Kama Sutra, is there?
Funny. Tell you what, Google and Meta fuck me every day, mate.
They will if you Google that.
Don't even get me started. Let us optimize your campaigns for you. Fuck off and do as I say. Anyway, let's not get into that. Positionless marketing. But they've been, when you want to do personalization, it's always great in theory. The reality of the fact is you need to create so much collateral to make it work across all the different channels, plus the decision making, the logic, the reporting, and everything else that goes with it. So it's one of those, like, it's great on paper until you do it on reality, or you use Optimove, which does it for you. And then just puts you back in charge and lets you scale really, really quickly to manage your CRM. Your activation, reactivation, and retention. Majority of the Power 50 use them. They're growing super fast. They work with the biggest guys. They work with startups and everything in between. So their tool is completely flexible. If I was launching a platform today, I would just immediately be plugging in Optimove. And one of the questions I'd be asking any platform provider is, how well do you integrate with Optimove? Which brings us on nicely to our second sponsor.
Oh, yeah. Who's that, Fintan?
Tell us about our second sponsor, Joe.
Well, interestingly, Fintan, I love talking about Every Matrix because they've got nice, shiny offices in Shoreditch. They took me to a beautiful Peruvian restaurant and to Newmarket Races. However, I didn't have the product demo. You did. But no, so Every Matrix. So it's the way they built the business is it's modular. So what you need, you can take, you can use, you can scale. And they're all about sort of scalability. They're all about meeting your exact needs. So it's not like you've got to take on one all-encompassing solution, like using Photoshop. Do you know what I mean? Do you ever use Photoshop, Fintan?
I've tried. It's too much for me.
How much of I've been using Photoshop for over 30 years now. And I would estimate I've used less than 0.5% of its capabilities.
That's because you just draw dicks on things, right? That's your thing, right?
Yeah, what's your point? Sometimes, though, I draw them and scan them and then add depth in Photoshop.
Shading.
Exactly. The shading tools are really good. Or rather, the shading tools. How did you get onto this? You don't respect sponsors, do you? Fintan.
Never missed an opportunity to make a joke.
But the point is that you get what you're looking for. You get what you need, and not a bunch of stuff that you're never going to use.
The other thing about it as well, though, is like when you do, when you go to third-party suppliers, it's typically like a one-size-fits-all. So what they try and do is like, well, this is how it works. Tough shit. What they've also done with Odds Matrix and their casino products, etc., is everything's localized. So they work with tier one partners in lots of different jurisdictions. They've got offices in practically every country in the world, and everything is tailored for that local market. So it's not like well, this is how we do things in our country. That's how you're going to do it. It's designed from the punter up in terms of personalization. So I think it gives you the confidence of like, okay, yeah, like what I need is what I'm going to get from these guys. So it's really good what they're doing. Constant new features, constant, like it's exactly who I'd call.
Not Ghostbusters?
Well, for ghost busting needs, I'd probably call the Ghostbusters. For gaming platform needs, I would call Evermatrix.
That's very fair. Yeah, and very perceptive. This is why you're a success.
That's right.
But we also have the mighty Clarion Gaming, and of course we are building up towards ICE
We are
2026.
a book motel. Can't wait.
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. So got a meeting requested today.
No way.
I know, yeah.
Is it with somebody I know? They just want to meet with you.
Yeah, it's just me. It's just I got a meeting request. It's nothing to do with you.
What are the odds?
Yeah, so the diary's already starting to fill up, which is probably a new, right? Usually it's December. Usually I've had December, but mid-November is a new one.
It's just a measure of how successful you are.
Yeah. Something like that. I do know the best Irish bar in Barcelona. I think that's what it's more about. One of my best pints of Guinness outside of Ireland in Barcelona.
Do you get a discount when you walk in and speak in an Irish accent?
No. Absolutely not.
That seems they're missing a trick there.
Yeah.
Missing some profits.
Yeah. It's some minimum wage kid behind the bar, right? So, yeah, ICE Barcelona 2026. It's coming. Bigger, better, stronger, faster, harder. I'm sure. I think that's the official tagline. We can check.
You're thinking of South Park the movie.
Uncut.
It was thicker, longer, and uncut, wasn't it? Yeah. ICE 2026. Girth is everything.
For your pleasure.
There's next to the responsible gambling zone, I think there's a ribbed area. No, Fintan, it's taking it too far.
Just lubing up.
But I'm genuinely, I am excited about ICE. I think it's going to be good.
I can't wait.
And I think it's going to be it's going. I mean, I'm covering some stuff for IGB there, and I'll be doing some stuff for the podcast there. And I don't know if anybody's told you this. But, you know,
yeah.
Oh, well, we're so close to finalising the venue. So close.
Got my dinner jacket and everything. Bow tie works. I'm ready. Shiny shoes.
I haven't even got an iron. I'll be turning up in my best t-shirt.
I am going to bow tie it.
Jesus Christ. Well, listen, I should warn you now, I'm going to be slightly underdressed next to you.
That's fine.
Well, yeah, because somebody's got to carry the stuff. I know my place. But yes, Gambling Book Awards, likely to be the Monday, the first day of ICE. Details to be confirmed, but to be confirmed very, very soon. Probably in 2 episodes' time, I think.
Yeah, just needs Fintan to send an email.
There's no pressure because it's usually me that's slowing things down. So I'm just enjoying this. It's nice. So this episode, as we've mentioned, we have Alex Duff and talking about the book The Fall and Rise of Brentford FC and its status as a contender to win the inaugural Gambling Book Awards. So meet Alex.
Yeah.
We are joined by this week's guest on the podcast. It's very exciting. It's not just exciting because it's a second author guest on the back of launching the Gambling Book Awards. It's exciting because Fintan's here as well. And I know that our listeners do miss you when you're not here, Fintan. So I feel like I need to introduce Fintan as well. Fintan's going to think I'm getting at him there, but I'm not. It's nice to have you here. And it's especially nice to have you here because you've been talking about this book since it came out. You bought this, I think you bought this in the hardback or Kindleback, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But you bought this and read it when it came out. So you're very excited, and I'm expecting him to go full fanboy.
Yeah.
We're joined by the excellent Alex Duff, who is the author of, let me see if I can get this right, because I am almost working from memory, Smart Money, The Fall and Rise of Brentford FC. Get in.
Nailed it.
This is why I'm popular with the ladies.
The wordplay.
Say ladies.
Wordplay. I love it.
Alex, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So your book's been nominated for the Gambling Book Awards, which we're very excited about. We did tweak the rules so that paperback editions are eligible. Not just for yours, it's just because it sort of made sense, because, you know, as long as the book's only been entered once, that is, you know, just. So, well, first off, what's your background? What do you do? You're not a full-time author.
No, so I've been a journalist since I started my career. First in the UK, then in Brazil and in Spain.
Oh, wow.
Then now I live in the Netherlands. So now I'm working in more like PR. But I still sort of see myself as a journalist in many ways.
There's a lot of overlap, isn't there?
Particularly these days. It's
Are you multilingual?
So I speak a few languages quite badly. So I can't, even English. Don't know if I master English, but I speak. I can get by in Spanish and Portuguese, and my Dutch is pretty poor, but I can ask for things in shops and pretty basic.
Could you say something and get Fintan to answer? Because he's been living in the
you're the
Netherlands
best
for a long
Dutch speaker
time.
on this call, for sure. Like, that is...
Okay, here goes. Vincent, hoe gaat het met jou?
Not a clue. Not a clue.
That's like, how are you doing, Vincent?
There you go. Yeah, nothing.
I can sound Dutch, but that's not the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, the problem with Dutch is I can sort of read it and speak it, but actually being understood is a whole different thing. So, yeah.
So I have a theory about that. So if you take English, so if you're a native English speaker, you're used to interacting with people with English as a second language. So you're used to filling in the gaps or pulling us. Oh, I can figure out what you mean. Like, you solve the puzzle of what they're trying to say. If you're Dutch, it's quite a small language. Not very many people speak Dutch, and typically the people who speak Dutch are native Dutch speakers. So you're not actually used to hearing bad Dutch. And so their brain, not their brain, but like their default thing is like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm not even going to try and figure it out. I'm just going to switch to English. And they're not used to bad Dutch speakers. So, and they're happy to speak English by and large, particularly in the big cities. And so it just cuts down on the ability or it makes it much harder to learn Dutch.
Do they appreciate the effort, though?
Yeah, but
I'm not asking you that, Fintan.
No, but what'll happen is they'll, because they're not used to it, they'll just laugh. So it'll shatter your confidence as like a novice learner trying to like find your feet when just this, Dutch, who you're talking to just laughs at you with your, what? And then they booming laugh and then just switch to English and, carry on the conversation.
I think the other thing is that Dutch people are very efficient and they don't like wasting time.
Yeah.
So if they quickly understand that they're going to communicate better in English than
for sure.
Dutch, then they switch quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually value the people who say, I'm going to speak Dutch to you and I'm not going to switch to English. And there aren't very many of those, but that's the only way I think that me and Vincent are going to learn Dutch, is if Dutch people.
I'm never learning. I'm never learning.
Speak English, because otherwise it's just going to keep switching to English.
But that's the thing. Both need to remember the wise words of the great Sir Michael Caine in Austin Powers in Goldmember. There's only two kinds of people I hate: the intolerant and the Dutch. Problem solved.
No comment.
Wow. Okay. Thanks for that, John.
I'm only allowed to say it because I'm in Wales. Anyway, right. So, Alex, this might be a stupid question. Are you a Brentford FC supporter?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Were
great
you
result
before
last
the
night.
book, or was it after the book?
No. Since age 7. So pretty much all my life. Yeah.
Wow. So is that where you're from?
Yeah. So I'm from that part of London. I mean, you wouldn't support Brentford for any other reason, would you?
You really wouldn't.
It wouldn't make any sense.
I used to work at Sky's offices, and the only place I ever lived in London was, actually I lived in two places, but the main place I lived in London was in Hammersmith, but not in the nice part. And I'd get
That was a nice part of Hammersmith.
by the rivers, really posh.
Yeah.
I was sort of
Yeah,
between
that's
Hammersmith and Shepherd's Bush, rough as arseholes. But I used to get that. I think it was the 219 bus, and it would go all the way to Brentford to go and do my shift at Sky. And basically, to me, Brentford was the Sky offices and that massive Gillette building. Are you telling me there are people there?
Yeah, well, I mean, the weird thing is Brentford used to be a booming town. Like because of it's on the junction of the River Thames and the Grand Union Canal, it used to be like a important sort of place because lots of goods came in and out through Brentford. And then when the motor car was invented, then it completely lost its place in the world, and they built the M4 right through the middle of Brentford. So that kind of destroyed it as a town. I guess ever since then it's really sort of fallen off the map. But apart from the football team, of course, but the town as a sort of place sort of became just melted into the suburbs of West London.
Would you think, I mean, in terms of sort of visibility and as stupid as it sounds, name recognition? I mean, Brentford FC. It's not just a club that's in the Premier League. It's established in the Premier League. They've been up there. They've been bloodying noses for 5 seasons now, and on a micro budget compared to most teams. The ground's quite small. I mean, in theory, in the modern Premier League, these models aren't supposed to work, are they? Not when you compare it to certain other clubs I could mention. Do you feel like it's kind of a DIY Wrexham? And I just want to chip in before you answer that, right? That whole Wrexham thing, I know there's loads of football snobbery about it, but anybody that went to Wrexham pre this documentary series that Reynolds and what's his name have done will know that place was an absolute shithole and had nothing at all. Deprived isn't the word. So you know what? Fucking good luck to them. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we used to play Wrexham a lot back in the 90s and the early 2000s. So yeah, I think the comparable size in terms of the number of people going to the games and the state of the stadium. So I think there's a lot of comparisons. I mean, obviously Brentford don't have any showbiz appeal, and I think that their Brentford success is down to just being smart, generally being smart, and there's a lot of backward thinking in football. Owners who just think that the coach is the answer to success. That's clearly, even this season you've been seeing clubs getting through 3 managers in 3 months and thinking that is the key to success. It's clearly there's much more to that, and I think Brentford realised very very early on that get rid of the cult of the manager and make it about the whole structure of the organisation, and do the little things well, but have a more organised, more efficient structure, and they've stuck to that. And so the fact that they're still in the Premier League is a tribute to that sort of thinking about how to make the whole infrastructure efficient, and make good decisions. And a lot of this is linked to gambling and the gambling, background of the owner, in that he's developed these models, which are efficient models, which tell him when to bet. And when things don't go right, doesn't mean you tear up the model and make a new model, but you test the model and you back test it, and you put a lot of research into making decisions, but you don't make spontaneous decisions. You make decisions which are well thought out and based on fact, and based on historic antecedents. And so that is, I think, the backbone and the backstory to why Brentford has been successful. It's about thinking long term, and being measured and being intelligent in making decisions.
I think it's fair to say that there are 3 Premier League clubs operating on relative micro budgets, where there's a system in place, and as you say, the cult of the manager, it's almost irrelevant now. They're coming in, they're coaching, they're not active in recruitment necessarily. But the bigger clubs are also trying to emulate that and largely failing, which is kind of hilarious, let's be fair. But Brighton have been doing this for a while to enormous success, and Bournemouth. And again, between those 2 and Brentford, you're probably talking about the 3 smallest grounds in the Premier League, which has an enormous impact on revenue, because match day revenue, it's not as important as it was, but it's still a big friggin' deal. And it's really fascinating that those 3 clubs have thrived using those models. But what was your starting point for the book? I mean, what was the point at which you thought, hang on, there's a fucking book here?
Well, it was, I think I was, I was living abroad for a lot of the time where we moved up through the leagues. And so I didn't know in depth the story. So it was partly me trying to figure out what the hell happened. How did we suddenly get into the Premier League? Well, not suddenly, but over 10 years. How did that happen? And I was, as a journalist, I'd sort of covered a little bit of gambling and data analytics. So I was kind of fascinated by that side to it as well. So I think those 2 things drew me into the story. I wanted to find out more about the club's development, and also about the gambling side and the data analytics side. And I think those 2 threads run through the book, about the gambling and the data analytics and the development of gambling and the development of football data analytics and football tactics. I tried to sort of chart a little bit the history of those through the club. And so for the gambling side goes from the sort of start of the football pools and looks at some of the first people claiming to have developed models to win the pools, which are often they were bogus and they weren't really serious, but they were built up an industry around it. And then looks at, how Matthew Benham and Tony Bloom, the Brighton owner, became involved in this area. And at the same time, it looks at how tactics of football were very, very basic, and there was no real thought put into those. In the same way, gambling was, people didn't really put a lot of thought into it. People didn't think about football tactics. It was just get on the pitch and do what you can and try and score a goal. And so, I try to look at how those have developed over time through the prism of Brentford. And so hopefully it's a book which you don't have to be a Brentford fan to be interested in. Hopefully it's about more than Brentford, although
it's for
Brentford, you might get pissed off there's too much Brentford in there.
No, I disagree. I think there's even if you're not a football fan, it's a fascinating story because for me, there
And
was
you're
like,
not a football fan. So
I'm
this
not a
is
football
proof.
fan, right? But there was 4 stories in the book, right? There was the history of football, history of Brentford as a town, history of the team, and then if you take the gambling, but like the Matthew Benham, Tony Bloom, like there's not a lot written about those guys, given how big they are, how much money they make, the impact they have on like global betting markets. They're 2 very secretive people. So like you can pick your whichever story thread you want to follow. They all go through this book in different ways. And what I thought was really fascinating was like the Tony Bloom, Matthew Benham rivalry and like the falling out and like there's a lot of data and analytics and like precision and kind of the club structure. But there's also a little bit of needle between the 2 teams. Like, can you talk on that a little bit more about the history of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that without Tony Bloom, there's no Brentford success story. You know, Tony Bloom is the guy who sort of went on this pathway first. So he began using mathematical modelling to bet on football, and this was basically in Asia, where the most liquidity is. So he developed mathematical modelling using what is today known as XG or expected goals. So he was ranking teams not based on the position in the league, but based on their goal scoring opportunities, which he thought was a better measure of how good they were and their form. And so he realized that the Asian betting markets were extremely inefficient, and it was relatively easy to make good money there. So he developed a network there and began betting. And then he hired Matthew Benham, who had been working as a trader in the city, derivatives trader, very, very good with numbers, who'd also been using modelling to bet or to invest, as it's called in the city, but it's basically betting. Yeah. And so he was very agile with numbers and was extremely good at trading. And he began trading on football instead of what he was doing before, which was derivatives. Anyway, so yeah, they were working together. They were, extremely doing extremely well. And then obviously, when you're making a lot of money, that's when sometimes you can fall out because I think Bloom felt that it was his model, and he didn't want Benham to use that model himself. So it was they fell out basically over the when and where that model could be used, and so it was a serious falling out. They had Bloom wanted to take Benham to court, and eventually they settled out of court. So that's the sort of backstory to what happened. And Bloom had history with Brighton because his grandfather was the owner, or sorry, not the owner, the chairman of Brighton. And so he felt like he had this strong link with the club and decided to start investing in the club when it was at a low point. And so gradually he used his sort of skill as a businessman and entrepreneur to help Brighton. And when Benham saw that he was being successful, I think it gave him the idea that he could do something. He had a lot of money already. He'd set up his own sort of syndicate to bet in Asia. I think he got the idea. Okay, I could do something with my team, which is Brentford, and so that's how, I think one led to the other. Without Bloom starting on that road, I don't think Benham would have gone down that road.
And what's it like when they play each other? Do they visit each other's grounds and stuff, or are they like what happens?
So Benham I think it's fair to say he doesn't invite Tony Bloom to the director's box at the G-Tech Stadium. So, you get most of the visiting board, they would go to the director's box at Brentford, and whether Bloom gets an invite and says no thanks, I don't know if that invite is ever extended, but Bloom will always go into the away end with the Brighton fans, and there's always the camera will always pan to him in the in the away stand. So there's apparently they haven't talked to each other for the best part of 20 years.
Interesting. That's interesting.
How much access did you get in writing this? I mean, was it difficult to get people to talk? Because, as Fintan says, we're not talking about two chatty people.
Well, yeah, it's not just them that are not chatty. It's also the people that work for them and the whole sort of industry, this small niche industry. They all have non-disclosure agreements. So yeah, it's extremely hard to find out stuff, and that's, as you said, there's not much written about them because it's very hard to find stuff out and check it. So I just had a couple of good sources who sort of helped guide me through this, how everything worked, and so they were absolutely essential to understanding the sort of business model and how their two syndicates, Smart Odds and Star Lizard, how they evolved and how their business model works. And I don't pretend to know everything about them, but I think in the book I give a fairly decent account of how they started and how they operated over time.
Have you had any feedback from the club about the book? Like, are you banned?
They invited me, so my feeling, they haven't said we hate it or we love it, but they invited me to do an interview with the CEO a while back for the Sunday Times. So I'm not person non grata, I think.
That's good.
So I think, and the book, as you said, the book is on different levels. It's not just about gambling; it's also about the club. I think it's quite an affectionate look at the club.
For sure.
And it's not a book about settling scores, or it's an objective, account of the club and its history. And I haven't gone in with the intention of ruffling feathers or anything like that. It's just I've tried to make an honest effort understanding club and its evolution.
But it's probably, if they're okay with it, it means you've kind of hit the sweet spot. If they were too happy, you'd be worried you've missed something. And if they were furious, maybe you've missed something or missed something. You know what I mean? So if everyone's just kind of like, okay, we'll deal with it, then I think as a journalist, you've kind of hit the sweet spot of, I've got this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's different ways of reading it. I think they would say, oh yeah, he's got some of it, but he doesn't know everything. So I think there's more stuff there's probably more stuff I don't know than the stuff I do know. But I think hopefully.
Well, that just gives you opportunities for like revised editions in the future, right? Or the extension, or it's the way the club's going. Who knows where they end up in the, you know what I mean? Like their system's clearly working.
Yeah, I think. I think there could be an update, but I do feel like the club has reached. It's difficult for the club to progress because it's such a small club compared to some of the rivals. I feel like they've hit a little bit of a glass ceiling, which is maybe the mid-table of the league. But certainly knowing Matthew, understanding how his mentality, he'll definitely be trying to push those boundaries in the coming years.
So what would it take, just so we kind of speculate to the future? Like, okay, like you could argue mid-table in the Premier League, that's a good place to be. There's nothing wrong with that, particularly for a club like Brentford and its history. But what would it take? Is it just like it takes oil money to get from mid-table to, like, he's got money, but he doesn't have an oil well in his back garden kind of thing? Is that kind of the next stage, or?
I think it basically comes down to money. I mean, unfortunately, that's there's a strong correlation between there's been studies done on the correlation between the team's wage bill and its performance. So it's the better players you sign, the more likely you are to be higher up the table. And so I think the club is trying to raise its profile, because there are so many. There's 20 clubs in the Premier League, and it's quite difficult for them to stand out from Chelsea and Manchester United, and so they're trying hard to increase their profile, which then creates revenue. So they're looking to, especially the United States, to become popular. It's basically if the more money and the more popularity you have, the more revenue you have, and the more chance you have of breaking into the top.
And look, I think we talked about Wrexham's a really good example of that, of like leveraging the media property to bring in sponsors that a club like Wrexham just wouldn't get otherwise, and massively outperform. Like, I think they're outperforming some Premier League teams on sponsorship revenue. Is this why, like, because doesn't Brentford, like Claudia Schiffer or somebody like that's a shareholder, or like is that part of this, like, to raise our profile, or is that like a completely different story?
No, I think there's something to that. The Matthew Benham's been looking for investment and new shareholders, and so he sold a minority stake to a guy called Gary Lubbock, who I used to own I think he owned Autoglass. He's a businessman from South Africa. And then the other new shareholder or two shareholders, is Matthew Vaughan and his wife, Claudia Schiffer. Matthew Vaughan is a filmmaker who's made films with Guy Ritchie and has his own film production company. And I think one of the reasons that they've brought him in is because they think he'll be good at sort of storytelling and sort of helping the club market itself, maybe through
a Guy Ritchie style documentary, because like you got the Wrexham one, which is like Disney friendly, right? It's just this perfect Disney story of the two heroes arrive, rescue the princess, and live happily ever after kind of thing. But you could flip it, so you're not going to out Disney Ryan Reynolds, right? He's just perfect at that. But if you went like the Guy Ritchie route, gritty London geezers, pints, pubs, proper football, proper lad, like you could really kind of go in a completely different direction and just own it as a brand, which would be super interesting.
Well, I mean, I would argue that the Brentford story is better than the Wrexham story, because the Wrexham story I find a little bit vacuous in that it's just two guys turn up and add some stardust, and then everyone starts getting interested in this club. Where and I'm obviously very biased here because I've been a Brentford fan all my life, but I think the Brentford story is perhaps more fascinating because it's just it's based on the gambling winnings, basically. The money, some guy, a physics graduate from Oxford University, managed to make hundreds of millions of pounds gambling on football using mathematical modelling. Incredibly entrepreneurial. Obviously, there was Tony Bloom doing the same thing, but these guys are two incredible entrepreneurs who've been incredibly successful, doing something completely which nobody else had thought of at the time. There was some comparisons in US sports, so there was some mathematical modelling.
You've got the Moneyball
there was a
story type thing.
The computer group.
Oh yeah, yes.
People betting in the NFL and American sports using mathematical modelling. So there has been some precedent, but what Benham and Bloom are doing was much more complex,
global,
much more risky, because they were betting in Asia, which is, completely unregulated, and so they were taking massive risks using this data. So yeah, I think it's for me it's like it's kind of a wow story. Like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
So
But
yeah,
there's
fair play to Wrexham as well. But I just don't, as a fan, I don't, as a sort of, watching it from far, I don't really see that the story doesn't have that much depth. But maybe, obviously these days you don't need depth with social.
like
You need influencers. And I'm an old
it,
school journalist
it,
guy, and I don't see much depth to that story.
there's not a
the
lot of
depth is
depth.
bought, isn't it? The depth is from the characters that are already there, the people that are in the town, the players that are already at the club.
Yeah,
That's the depth and the drama. Did you read Miracle of Castel di Sangro?
No, I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
It's one of the all-time great sports books in my opinion. It's up there with like Friday Night Lights. It's a magnificent book, and it's a similar idea. Guy goes and lives with Serie B team. The phone's just lit up. Thinks I'm saying Siri. Twat. Anyway, a Serie B team in Italy. This first time this team's been promoted to this level. And it's an American as well, which makes it even more interesting because you've got the fish out of water element, and he's a relatively new football supporter, but totally immersing himself in it. And it's that's part of the appeal of the Welcome to Wrexham thing. It's their education. Like that first series is them learning shit. And getting a character like Phil Parkinson in to do that could only have been topped by if they'd gotten what's his face, Ollie from God, I can't remember where he came from. Used to manage Blackpool. Shit. I'm gonna have to edit this out. But so you've got that fish out of water element, and that is quite compelling, especially for people who are just coming to it because it's Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney. So I get what you're saying. It is a TV-friendly package and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
But it's also still a dead North Wales former pit village, you know what I mean? All those elements are still there.
Yeah. I mean, so for the Brentford story, I think there were some comparisons with, I don't know if you've seen The Big Short.
Yeah, so the Moneyball.
Who's betting against the system, the whole system. And in a way, that's what Benham and Bloom doing. They realised that the way football was run was extremely bad. It was run in a bad way. It was just that the owners. Some of the owners were very successful in their own businesses, but when they came into football, they had no planning. They just came in and told the managers to get on with it, and they didn't really spend any of their time. Maybe they didn't have enough time to do that. So Benham and Bloom have spent a lot of time on their clubs, but basically they came in and showed how inefficient many football clubs are. So they're in the Championship, they're competing against clubs which were like maybe five times bigger, but they were beating them because they spent more time thinking about how to win football games.
It's actually two Michael Lewis books, right? So you've got The Big Short, where they're basically betting against the market, so they're smarter than the market. But then you've also got Moneyball, where they're applying the mathematics of what makes a successful team in terms of tactics, identifying players, developing talent.
You can throw a third in there as well. You can put the blind side in as well.
Do you have the blinds? Yeah, positional type stuff. Like it basically...
The focus is always on the quarterback, but actually the blind side is about putting the focus on the person defending the quarterback.
Yeah, it's a good point. So there's, three books, Michael Lewis books in one.
I do quite like Michael Lewis.
He's good.
He's got a knack for finding the human heart of a story that's not at all human.
I remember reading Liar's Poker and go, I want to work in finance. This is amazing.
The Anthony Bourdain of finance.
I lasted 18 months. I'm not smart enough. Anyway, I'm not Tony Bloom. Amazing. So this isn't your only book. You've got another book?
No, he's got two others at least.
Two other books. Apologies.
Yeah.
What's the cycling one? Because that was I've got it in front of me actually, but I'm not going to say the name of it because it sounds a bit rude. Which longlisted for William Hill Sports Book of the Year, and that's big shit.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm always told that they go for like esoteric books, so that's my publisher called it an esoteric book, and it fits with what they're looking for. But it's a book about another secretive sort of family who own the Tour de France. The book's called Le Fric, which means the cash in French, and it's about. I think I'm attracted to secretive people, and I like the challenge of unraveling the story. But this family's owned the Tour de France for like 70 odd years, and they really don't like publicity. But it's
Are you banned from the Tour de France?
But don't they own? I thought the Tour de France was invented to sell more newspapers during the summer. So don't they own a newspaper as well?
That's right. They own L'Équipe, which is the big French sports newspaper. So there's a link. They've been a media family.
Surprising they're so secretive then, if they own a newspaper, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the sort of matriarch says, one of her quotes is that I don't have the shoulders of Rupert Murdoch. So they're not like this brash family, cigar smoking family.
I've seen pictures of Rupert Murdoch. That man hasn't got any shoulders.
Well, I think he's got balls for sure. Big balls. I don't know if it's big shoulders or she probably meant big balls. But yeah, I think they they're very sort of, they don't like the limelight. But it's a fascinating story because the Tour de France is actually owned by a family, and they've always rejected offers to buy. There's been loads of offers to buy the race, partly for the prestige, but also to make make money from it. And they've rejected those, probably dozens of offers over the years.
Interesting. Nice. I'm going to download that one next. I like a bit of cycling.
And one thing, I've been thinking about, your Brightons, your Brentfords, and your Bournemouths. They play like systems, and players fit into those systems, and they find the players for those systems, and then they sell some of those players. I mean, Bournemouth, if any other club had sold their defence over the summer, you'd be thinking, fuck, they're going down. They're doing fine. And here's the thing, the players that these clubs sell very often don't do very well at the clubs that have bought them. Now, do you think that that's a part of this, the Moneyball idea, the finding players that fit into your system, that fit into your club, the way that the club works, the way that the youth team plays, because they'll be playing that way all through the club, won't they? And you see these players excelling. You very often see this when midfielders are bought, not necessarily from those clubs, but you see a midfielder and they've got a sort of real quiet dude playing next to them. But that guy's the one that allows them to be what you're seeing. And so the flash dude gets bought. The other guy just carries on playing his game. Flash dude goes somewhere else, apparently fails, but he's playing in a different system, in a different way. Do you think, is this a consequence of the way that these clubs are run?
Well, it's a consequence of Brighton and Brentford finding value in players who don't necessarily look the best players on the pitch, but they're doing the important stuff. So, there's the famous quote, I think it was Paolo Maldini, who said, I can't remember the exact quote, but basically said, if I make a tackle, it's because I've made a mistake. I haven't been, my job is not necessarily to make the tackle, but just to be there to make sure the player doesn't get past me. And so it's not the ones who look necessarily the most outstanding on the pitch. It's the ones who are doing the stuff which you don't necessarily notice. The naked eye doesn't notice. So Brentford and Brighton have these players to work out how often they stop goals and how often they contribute to goals. And I don't know exactly how they put these models together, but they are calculating the value of each player to the team and fitting these players together to make them the value of the team as a whole as high as possible. And so, the average club might buy half a dozen outstanding players and then try to fit them together into a team. What Brentford and Brighton doing is much more sophisticated than that, and buying players who are contribute to the bigger, to the overall outcome.
It's the runs batted in idea, isn't it?
Exactly. It's the Moneyball thing. It's like the getting on base.
It's like players that hit a home run, they're great and everything, but they're not going to hit a home run every at bat. You want the guy that's going to get to base.
Yeah. So obviously they can't afford the best players in the world, so they're using that Moneyball theory to build a team which is which has as much value as they can squeeze out of it. But a lot of the stuff that you see with when you're watching a football match with the naked eye, you're only seeing part of that match. So you're not seeing everything that's going on. What they're doing, and they have amazing tech. The Premier League provides amazing sort of data and stats and technology so you can track each player's move throughout the 90 minutes, and they are looking in the minutiae of each player and what he's doing, and they're also coaching in such a way as that player.
Yeah, because you get the feedback loop. Yeah,
and making very precise, giving him very detailed information about how to improve his game and play against certain opposition. So it's about finding value, and it's about maximizing that value once you've got that player in your team. And they obviously treat the players very well, and they look after them because those are their assets. I think some clubs, the players don't get treated as well as they do at Brentford, and that's a shame because they're not going to maximize their potential. If you're not looking after them and not training them to the best of their ability.
Fintan, we didn't even get onto Ivan Toney. Talk about your missed opportunities, and that's my fault. I'm sorry about that. I was just reminded while you were talking, Alex, about what Zinedine Zidane said when Real Madrid sold Claude Makélélé to Chelsea for a relative pittance as well, considering that guy was incredible. Why put another layer of gold paint on the Bentley when you're losing the entire engine?
Great quote.
I mean, he doesn't speak much, but when he does, it's often worth listening to. Not always. But we are going to have to wrap up there, unfortunately. Alex, we're announcing the long list for the Gambling Book Awards at the start of December and the short list at the start of January, so maybe we'll see you again. Maybe we won't. I don't know.
Brilliant.
I don't know. But anybody curious about the book?
Great book.
Smart Money, The Fall and Rise of Brentford FC. It's not necessarily a book about Brentford FC. As you've heard, it's about much, much more, which is why it's in the Gambling Book of the Year Awards. Best of luck with everything, and we'll hopefully see you again.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. Pleasure.
If you've enjoyed this episode of the Gambling Files podcast, please find us on LinkedIn. Give us a big, juicy, succulent like. That nearly went wrong. You can find us under the name The Gambling Files Podcast. You can find us on Twitter under The Gambling Files. I think the handle is just @GamblingFiles. You can connect to myself, John Bruford, or Fintan Costello, also on LinkedIn. We're also both on Twitter. And you can find all of our previous episodes at www.thegamblingfiles.com. If you enjoyed it, please share, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, and we'll see you next time.